This is the iPad home screen, and when you're ready to launch Deckhand Pro, find the Deckhand Pro cursor and tap on it to launch. You'll be brought to the Deckhand home screen that looks just like this. If this is your first time using Deckhand, you'll be prompted to enter your Fish Online account information to connect it with Deckhand Pro. Follow the prompts and you can take care of that pretty easily. In this case, we're just going to go straight into a fishing trip. So as we're warming up and getting ready to depart for the fishing grounds, we'll tap Go Fishing in the bottom center. We have friendly messages spread like this throughout the application to help guide you through the process. We'll tap Continue. This box is just letting us know that this is a demo trip. You wouldn't normally see this. We're first brought to the trip details screen, where we have the operator, the vessel, the trip type, and other basic details of the electronic vessel trip report. These are already filled in for us because I've already done a trip before, but if you want to enter an operator, a vessel, etc., you'll tap on the black box on the right-hand side up and down this list. It'll bring up a list of vessels, and you can search here and filter for the name of your vessel, or you can scroll and select it in the list. For the trip type, we're choosing commercial, and for the number of crew, we'll tap 2 for the demo. And we'll hit Continue. Another friendly message telling us what to expect now that our trip is underway. We'll tap OK. And we'll select an effort type. So for this demo, let's go lobster fishing. As we type the name of the species, the list filters for the species. And now, as we are steaming up to our first trap or trawl to haul it, we'll tap Start. Now, a couple details about this screen. This is a GPS location of the vessel, the black and white cursor. Because I'm stationary in this demo, it's not moving, but if I were on a moving vessel, there would be a track line behind the vessel, color-coded for speed. You see the green S annotation here. That means that's the start of our trawl, the hauling of our trawl, which dropped there when I pressed the Start button. And this map will populate and accumulate with track lines and gear locations the more you record those gear locations by tapping Start and End, which we'll see in a moment. On the left-hand side, this list is a list of all of our fishing activities. So at any time, we can go back to, for example, this trip header bar, and we can preview certain details about our trip. Deckhand will give us warnings about things that are incomplete, and we have a few of those warnings here for obvious reasons. We haven't yet completed this particular fishing effort or this trip. And you'll see this list accumulate with fishing activities as the trip goes on. We'll revisit that in a few minutes. So we're in the middle of steaming and hauling a trawl in this example. When we're done with the last trap, when the last trap comes aboard, we tap End. We'll add a species by tapping Add a Species here in the Catch and Discards screen. And we will, of course, search for American lobster. Tap American lobster. We enter an estimated weight. So for this example, let's just put in 100. And any discards that we may have, we'll put in 50. If we have a multi-species haul, if we're a groundfish boat, for instance, or any other vessel that has multiple species, and we need to add a species to this particular haul or this particular effort, we can just tap Add a Species here and do so. Otherwise, we'll tap Continue. These are the bits of data that Greater Atlantic Regional Office wants about our fishing efforts. So we'll put in 500 for an example chart area number. And I'll just put in all the minimum numbers here for the sake of this example. You can see on the left-hand side, next to each of the names of the data fields here, that we have the applicable and appropriate ranges of numbers that are allowed to be entered for any particular gear type. So that's to help the user with remembering, what the appropriate values are and what might be too high or too low. We'll call that a 20 fathom soak. and we'll just call it 1 haul, 0 hours, and 1 minute, which of course is not a real world scenario. Actually, we'll call that a 24-hour soak. That's more applicable to the lobster gear type. Finally, we need to enter our latitude and longitude in the stat area where the fishing activity took place. Now, because I'm actually on the West Coast giving you this demo, I have to zoom out, go all the way over to the East Coast, and drop a pin, for me, anywhere in the Garfo region. For you, your latitude and longitude will automatically be populated with your current GPS location. So if you're doing this while you're steaming in or while you're still in the statistical area, you're good, and you can use the lat and long that is there in the location field. If you're filling out this report after you've gotten back to the dock or after you've gotten back to your house, then you'll need to drop the pin in the appropriate area on the map where the majority of your fishing activity took place for that particular fishing effort. We'll tap complete now that all of this is complete. Now we've completed a full loop, and we're back to the point when we could tap the start button again to begin another fishing effort, such as hauling a trawl or making a tow if you're a groundfish vessel, or dredging if you're a scallop vessel, etc. For the sake of this example though, we'll go ahead and say that we're going to steam in and offload, so we'll tap end trip in the bottom left. Deckhand just wants to make sure that we're actually ready to end our trip, and we'll say, yep, we'll end the trip. And Deckhand brings across automatically the estimated weights from our fishing effort here in the top right. Now, if this were again multi-species, and you had a dozen species that you had recorded across various fishing efforts, the sum total of all of those weights and all of those species would be here on the landing screen, ready to go. Now, the only thing we need to do is we need to expand this American lobster bar by tapping on it. And we need to enter a dealer. So I'll just pick the first one in the list here. And we need to enter an offloading port. Again, I'll just pick the first one in the list for the sake of brevity in this demo. Our vessel trip report number is here. We can share that with the dealer. It's there and available for you. And once all of this is complete, we tap next. Deckhand brings us back to the first screen that we saw, where we initially saw the operator and the vessel and that sort of thing. But now Deckhand just wants to make sure that our landed date and time is correct. Now, I have a warning here because the Greater Atlantic region says that a minimum trip duration must be 30 minutes. In this demo, we've only been quote-unquote fishing for about 7 minutes. So I'm actually going to take the sail date and time, and I'm going to roll that back by 1 hour. Tap done. And that clears that error since now we've been at sea for roughly an hour. Everything else here is looking good. We'll tap confirm. The trip is now complete. So a couple things to note here before we actually send this report to the Greater Atlantic region. And that's right, this report has not actually been transmitted. It's still sitting here in our opened list, as you can see. So what we can do, we can tap preview, and we can actually bring up a preview of the entire trip, including the trip overview, all of our efforts that we've made, and our landings information. We can filter for the various components of the vessel trip report up here above. And if we want to share our trip report, say with our dealer, which many of our customers do at the point of landing, we can tap share in the upper right-hand corner, and we can share this as a PDF via text message, email, AirDrop, other Apple-based formats. When we're done looking at the preview, we can tap close. Another really cool feature in Deckhand is the running tallies feature. So using the plus button here, we call this the Faboot button. You can tap that and tap running tallies. In running tallies, Deckhand gives you historical catch data, including total kept, total discards, average, and number of hauls. You can see here we have total discards from just our trip that we took today, and and total kept here on the blue side of the bar graph. And we can filter for 7, 30, 90 days, this season, or a custom date range. We can also share the running tallies just like we were able to share the preview a minute ago. So when I'm done, I'll tap close. Okay, we're comfortable with our report. We've previewed it. We don't have any edits to make in any of the various trip activities, which we can always do at any time by tapping the edit button. And we're ready to send this off to Garfo. So we'll expand the topmost trip activity bar here and tap submit. We certify that the vessel trip information is true and complete and tap accept. Again, here for the demo, we're reminded that this is a demo trip and the data will actually not go to Garfo. Tap continue. And I'll enter my PIN, 1212. You'll have yours, usually a 4-digit PIN. And you'll notice here that the report is uploaded and pending approval, and the little cloud icon here means that the report is currently in transit to Garfo. And in just a minute, we should have a green check mark show up with a ribbon at the top that says the report's been received and we're good to go. Okay, the report's been accepted by Garfo, and the green check mark here means that we are all set. So at this point, if we have no need to preview the report again or do any editing for resubmission, we can just close this trip out. Keep in mind that there's only one trip allowed at a time in this list here, in the open list. And instead of go fishing, you'll notice that the button in the bottom center of the screen says resume. That is by design so that this list doesn't become overcrowded with multiple trips, creating a confusing user experience. So when we're done with this trip, we tap close. Deckhand explains to us what closing a trip means, and we'll tap close trip. Now we have a blank slate, and we have a go fishing button here in the bottom center. We're ready to go fishing on our next trip. If we need to retrieve a previously closed trip, we can go up here, tap the close button. And the trips are arranged by date. And when you open any trip from any date, Deckhand will zoom in on the map, showing you gear locations, track lines, etc. from that particular trip. And if you need to edit this trip and resend it to Garfo for any reason, you can tap open, and Deckhand will send that trip back to the open list where you can edit it, hit the submit button again, and you'll be all set on a trip that needs any amendments or changes. One last note, our help section is fantastic. It works offline, fully functional, and gives the users a great overview of the screen layout, how to navigate Deckhand, what the various buttons and notifications mean, etc. So anytime you need a quick reference, online or offline, you can just tap the help button there in the top left, and you can look through screen layouts and how to navigate through Deckhand before, during, after fishing, etc.